Mochi brownies are all done. Look at that. Aren't they the most gorgeous brownies you've ever seen? What do you think? Hi, my name is Lieu. I am the author of Modern Asian Baking at Home, and I'm also the founder of Subtle Asian Baking. It is the biggest online global group all about Asian baking and baking the Asian way. It is inclusive and diverse, so if you're interested in baking with Asian ingredients, with Asian flavors, be sure to check us out. We have a Facebook group. We're on modernasianbaking.com. We're also on social media at subtleasian.baking for Instagram and TikTok, so be sure to check us out. Today we are going to make the most delicious mochi brownies. So these are gluten-free, and I'll also have the recipe up for you to see that you can make them vegan as well. The beauty about these brownies are that they're chewy, and I've had them in a container, airtight container, for a week, and they're still soft and delicious and fresh and chewy. So they could be out on the counter for a few days and you could still eat them. You can toast them up again so that they're nice and warm and softer, or put them into the microwave when you're eating them again in the next few days. If you do put them and store them into the refrigerator, just know that mochi can get a little bit hard, but not as hard as tapioca, which is like the boba that you get from boba stores. So if we're gonna be ready, I'm gonna switch my camera angle. You're gonna see me do all of the mochi brownie steps. Super easy. All you need first is a bowl. We're gonna start with that. Everything's gonna go into this bowl and then pop into the microwave, so let's get started. So this recipe is on Modern Asian Baking at Home. It's called the Gooey Fudgy Miso Brownies on page 62. What we're gonna do is you're gonna take a bowl, right? Any heat-proof bowl, and you're just gonna dump your chocolate in there. So I'm actually making double of this recipe, but it calls for 8 ounces of chocolate, and half of it goes into the bowl first. So I'm just gonna put all of it into the bowl. I'm gonna put this 4 ounces of chocolate in there. So I'm doubling the recipe, which means I'm gonna put another one in there in a second. And just dump it all in. Then I'm gonna add my butter. So add my chocolate first. After adding my chocolate, I'm gonna add my butter. And then I'm just gonna pop this into the microwave in like 20 to 30 second bursts until it's nice and melted. And that's when I'm just gonna mix it all in. So let me just do that first. Dump in my chocolate. Like I said again, I am making double the batch of what you'll find on page 62 of the Gooey Fudgy Miso Brownies. The recipe calls for half a stick of butter, but like I said, I'm doing double the recipe. So I'm gonna put in the recipe asks for half a cup of butter, which is 1 whole stick like here. But since, like I said, I'm doing double, I'm gonna put in 2 sticks of the butter, and I use unsalted butter. So I prefer that. And I like it so that my butter is just cut out first, so it's easier to get softened in the microwave instead of like one huge chunk, right? So I'm just gonna do that, throw that in there. It's already a little soft because I left it out for a little bit, so that'll be great. I find that chocolate melts. You don't want it to be too melted because then you can't temper it anymore, or like it'll seize or break apart and then become dry and disgusting, and it won't be the brownie that you want, right? So you don't want to over microwave your chocolate. So start with 30 seconds and then go from there. Let's pop this into the microwave now. So this was just 30 seconds, and you'll see that it's not quite ready yet because the chocolate is still hard, but you see that the butter has melted, so that's great, right? So we want all of that to be melted. I'm gonna throw this in there for another 30 seconds and see how that goes. This was another 30 seconds, and it looks like it's getting melted, but still not all the way yet. So I really want it all to get melted in there because I want this to become like a liquidy, runny batter. So I think I'm gonna just pop it in one more time, 30 seconds. It should be okay. But you know what? It's actually almost there. So yeah, you know what? I'll do 20 seconds just to be safe. Again, I don't want this to seize up, and then your batter's gonna get destroyed. You don't want that. Okay, so let's throw that in for 20 seconds. Okay, I'm super happy now because everything has melted into this syrupy, like a Hershey chocolate syrupy consistency that I want. And a little bit of chunks is okay because you're just gonna bake it anyway. So it's gonna melt all into the batter once it's baked. But you see how nothing is seizing up, everything's just nice and smooth? This is exactly what you want, okay? So this was 2 30-second bursts plus 1 20-second burst in the microwave. Perfect. I've become very lazy. I no longer use double boiler, so whenever something calls for a double boiler, I've just been using my microwave these days. So in all honesty, work smarter, not harder, LOL. Next, I'm gonna put in the sugar. The recipe calls for, if you're just making one batch of it, just 1 cup of the sugar. So since I'm making 2 batches, I'm gonna put 2 cups of sugar in here. Usually I don't like things that sweet, but the chocolate does get a little bit bitter. So like the 2 cups of sugar will balance it out just right. It'll be fine. And then you'll just mix that up. And everything will just go in nicely. So my sugar's not very fine, it's granulated. And don't worry, once we put in our eggs and our other mixture, everything will look great. There we go. I need 2 medium eggs, or 2 large eggs is okay. I'm gonna put in my eggs next. So pop each one in, one at a time. Do a little bit of a mix, just like that. Pop another one in. So calls for 2, but again, doubling my recipe, I'll be having 4 in here. That's 2 of them. 3, and then that's 3. Give it a little twirl like that. And this is number 4. And I actually use my eggshells. You could use them to put it into your plants for nutrition. Or I have a snail, so I'll wash it down and I'm gonna give the shell to my snail to eat. Mix it all in. So if, let's say you want like a flourless cake, at this point if you add some cornstarch, and then you could just put this into the oven and bake it into a flourless chocolate cake. I have a recipe for that too in my book, Modern Asian Baking at Home. This is not the correct consistency, so I wouldn't do that yet because we're still gonna make our brownies. For a pop of umami and balancing the flavor out, I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of any type of miso. So this one's a little salty. Usually I might put in 2 for double the batch, but for this one, because I'm gonna send it to like people with like palates that are probably different from mine, I'm not gonna make it as salty or savory, because I don't want someone to have like, ooh, why is this brownie so salty, right? But I find that instead of using salt, using miso has been so amazing. Like, there's this extra film of deliciousness in all of your cakes and your brownies and your cookies when you use miso that can only be achieved with this delicious fermented soybean paste that is miso. So I'm gonna make sure that everything's in there cohesively. Look at this batter, this is beautiful already. I'm gonna put in 2 cups of glutinous rice flour now. So glutinous rice flour is not rice flour, it's different. Glutinous rice flour is what makes your things mochi-ish, so it'll be nice and bouncy and chewy. The recipe calls for 1 cup. I'm putting in 2 again because I'm doubling my recipe. So here's 1 cup, and now here's 2 cups. I'm gonna put in 2 full cups of the mochi powder. That is my mochi flour. It's completely gluten-free, so this is going to be a gluten-free batter. Now let's say you want to make this gluten-free and vegan, so instead of the eggs, you would add in tofu, silken or soft tofu. Instead of the milk that we're going to be using, you're going to use any type of plant-based milk that's unflavored. And then instead of butter, you're going to use vegan butter, or you're going to use any vegetable oil or like canola oil. So the next thing I'm going to add is 1/2 cup of milk. But I'm actually going to add in a full cup because, like I said, doubling the recipe once again. So that's just 1 cup. I'm going to add in, 1/2 cup. And I'm going to add in 1/2 cup more. Makes it a full 1 cup. And then I'm just going to go mix everything in there until it's cohesive. And I'll get there, but you already see like this batter is a little bit more chewier, or like a little different from your standard floured brownie batters, right? But it'll all get in there. So it's optional for you if you want to add in some flavoring like vanilla extract. So I do like that, so I'm going to add in some vanilla extract. And I like to flavor up my brownies too, like with a flavoring. So let's say I want to add in some hojicha. Hojicha, which is a lightly or darkly roasted green tea, has a delicious like caramelly roasted notes, which I think is so pleasant. So I think I'm gonna dump in like about a teaspoon of hojicha powder in there to give it an extra flavor that's so special. Hojicha powder from Senbird Tea. If you use the promo code SOBTEA at checkout, you'll get 15% off. So SABTEA, Sob Tea. I'm gonna put about a teaspoon in there. So again, it is a roasted green tea. That's why it's brown. And it smells so good. It's one of my favorite flavors there is. I actually would prefer hojicha to matcha because it just has this really pleasant roastedness that you don't get with your matcha, right? And matcha is just very earthy. It's fragrant but more subtle, but like the roastedness of this hojicha is just so pleasant and so addictive. So once you've had hojicha tea, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this might be my favorite tea. So it's between hojicha and golden oolong. That's two of my favorite teas. It's really hard to compete with each other. But if you ever go to a boba shop and they have like roasted milk tea and they call it hojicha, like really try it. Like go for it. You're gonna love it. Okay, so that is basically it to our batter. Isn't that beautiful? And you don't have to be worried about over mixing it because you're just really using a whisk in your hand. It's not gonna really over mix at this point. So of course you want to be super generous with your chocolate because I love chocolate, and I would just dump like all this chocolate in there. Right, just dump it all in. Yep, just like that. And I did forget something. I do need to put in half a cup of cocoa powder. So let me do that. You could put in black cocoa powder if you want. So that's just about half a cup of cocoa powder. And that is everything that I need in my batter. Of course, I'm gonna add a little bit more chocolate because I really love like melty chocolate that's in there. So I want to be super generous with my chocolates. And I'm gonna gift this, so I'm making 2 batches because I'm gonna gift one batch to Book Larder in Seattle and another batch to actually Tom Douglas, who I am meeting tomorrow. So by the time you watch this recording, it wouldn't be tomorrow anymore. But yeah, so I'm gonna meet him and then I'm hoping to gift him this delicious brownie. And I like, my motto is that, you know, if you want to make a friend, just feed them food, right? Because food is love after all. So if you feed your friends your food, that just shows how much you love them, right? I guess that's why I love being a baker and I love making food. Because I just love to feed people. I'm gonna be super generous with my chocolate chunks, and I'm just gonna like put them in there. And if you find it nasty that I'm using my bare hands, guys, I have washed my hands before I cooked. They're completely washed. Maybe like, have you seen people make pizza and stuff? They don't really put on gloves, do they? I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna be super generous with my chocolate chunks because I want like chocolate chunks in there. I want people to eat and then pull apart like this amazing chocolate chunk. I'm gonna put even more chocolate in there. I just love chocolate. I feel like you can't have enough chocolate. The recipe calls for an extra, let's say, 4 ounces of chopped up chocolate in there, but you can dump as much as you want, really. Okay, I think that's about enough, right? I just feel I want to be super generous with my chocolate. Okay, I think that's good. What do you think? You probably think I'm crazy. I'm like, who is this crazy woman? Okay, I'm gonna pour my batter now. Usually I would just pour everything in, but I want to divide it evenly amongst the 2 pans that I have. So I want to be fair that everyone gets the same amount of brownies. So I'm just gonna scoop it in. Scoop it in. They look so good already. Like, I'm addicted to these. I made a batch for myself and my family, and we were eating it for a few days. Scooping batter into this one. And This I could tell it's gonna be so chocolatey and so mochi-ish and so good. I'm a little jealous that I don't get to eat this later. that it'll be gifted. That's okay, I can make it anytime because the recipe is so easy to make as I just showed you, right? Super, super easy. Then you're just gonna smooth it out once it's all in there. This is gonna be really nice and thick brownies, I feel. Now, just smooth everything out. And this is done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bake it for around, let me see what the recipe says, 50 to 60 minutes, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's about 180 degrees Celsius for people who use Celsius, which is the rest of the world versus America. LOL. These guys are done. Let's see this one. I'm such a messy baker. So I love to bake, but I'm wondering if you guys are just like me, that you love to bake, but then you dread the cleanup. Like, I would cook a lot more and bake even more if I didn't have to clean everything out, like everything after myself. Like if I had Rosie the robot from the Jetsons would just clean after me, I could bake and cook all day. Like, I would never complain. I just love seeing things made, you know? Like, making things with my hands is one of, like, the most pleasurable things to me. That's gonna be delicious. I like to give it a little bit of a swirl, you know, a little bit of a pattern, but it will just bake nice and shiny later. Okay, that's it, and these are ready for the oven. In they go. Brownies are all done, and they're ready to be out of the pan. Still super hot, but since I've been baking and cooking so much, my hands have developed a bit of a heat tolerance. So I just pull them right out from the parchment paper, just like that. Ooh, they look so beautiful and puffy. Your knife, and you're just gonna slice them directly. So I like to have 9 brownies equally, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna slice like that, and slice like this. Oh, these are so chocolatey. Oh my gosh. They're like, look at that, super chocolate. Super fudgy. And they're gonna be so delicious. And I'm gonna slice like this. Slice like this. Crackly on top. Added a piece of chocolate. Mochi brownies are all done. Look at that. Aren't they the most gorgeous brownies you've ever seen? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. So, very easy recipe. I will super easy recipe. You will get the link to the PDF for the recipe. It is also on my cookbook, Modern Asian Baking at Home. It's released end of July this year, this summer. Hope you guys come find me on modernasianbaking.com. You can pre-order this book, modernasian.com/pre-order. Follow me on social media at subtleasian.baking or at Lieu. subtleasianbaking is for TikTok and Instagram. We also have a Facebook group called Subtle Asian Baking with lots of members, lots of free recipes, and you can make friends, network, and post your own recipes. Let me know your thoughts. Happy baking, my friends.